The following presentation is brought to you by Discovery Education, leading the world of digital and video learning. Discovery Education, connect to a world of learning.
These amazing islands straddle the equator some 600 miles off the coast of South America. This isolation from the mainland, combined with the constant volcanic activity, has provided a unique habitat. We'll see all the animals this place is famous for. Giant tortoises.
Knock that off. You're fresh. You're an herbivore.
Marine and land iguanas.
A living laboratory of evolution.
As well as some incredible changes that have occurred in recent times.
Coming face to face with what might be a new creature.
That's right. Evolution in action. Join me as we explore the Galapagos.
A toad. This is the Galapagos marine iguana, one of 7 races you find living throughout these islands. They are extraordinary reptiles, hardy, very fit for survival in this tough landscape. When we think of the Galapagos, we think of it being a cornucopia for wildlife, but in fact, it is considered by scientists to be species poor. There are not a lot of creatures living on the Galapagos. But what's wonderful about the Galapagos is that although it doesn't have tons of species, what species are here are amazing. I mean, they blow you away, like these marine iguanas.
Famous 19th century naturalist Charles Darwin used these islands to illustrate his theories on the origin of the species. Like Darwin, we too will travel by sailing ship. Now, he was here for 5 weeks. Our trip will be shorter. But even though this group of 5 islands spans only 100 miles, strong currents mean we'll spend as long as 12 hours going from one island to the next. And we'll be seeing a ton of iguanas every day, more and more of them. They're going to be coming out of our ears. And when we reach the end of our journey, we'll try to find a real treasure. We'll look for what researchers think may be an entirely new race of these unique reptiles. First stop, Fernandina.
What's great about Fernandina is that this is the youngest of the islands of the Galapagos archipelago. This island is only 700,000 years old. You can see how new it is. You can just imagine what this was like when it was bubbling and pussing from the earth, exploding up from the ocean, steaming the water. But in the end, it served as a table for life.
It is one of the greatest stories of natural history. Just how did these animals get here?
The ancestor of this animal drifted its way from the mainland. It was an iguana, your typical rainforest iguana, green iguana. Perhaps it drifted on a patch of vegetation. Maybe it was a female filled with eggs. Perhaps it was a small colony stuck in a large tree. But they found their way here, and then they evolved. They evolved into 2 different species, this marine species and the land species.
Isolated in a habitat very different from the mainland of South America, these castaway iguanas evolved into very distinct species. Each island has its own unique group of resident iguanas.
I think what I find most interesting about these marine iguanas, besides the fact that they're extraordinary in their behavior and the way they survive, is that they're marine animals. They survive in a saltwater environment. They come and they lay their eggs on land and they bask on land, but their food is marine in design. It's saltwater algae, it's saltwater seaweed. They are the only lizard in the world that can actually survive in a marine environment and harvest their food from the marine environment. Amazing reptiles found nowhere else but in the Galapagos. Now, when Darwin was here in 1835, he made a very interesting discovery about these marine iguanas. He discovered that their safety zone are these outcrops of lava and rock. What's interesting about that discovery is his experiment. Now, today, you're not allowed to touch these animals, but what Darwin did back then was quite on PC. He discovered that by hurling these creatures, catapulting them into the ocean, he watched it swim back, And then he picked it up, and he kept throwing this thing back out in the water 5 or 6 times, exhausting the animal. And it swam back. By tossing it in the ocean, he realized that although it is marine in design, it felt safer on the land, even though it was going to be picked up and thrown back out in the sea. Now, if I was a research scientist and I wanted to come to the Galapagos to do some studying, and I put in my proposal, part of my research will be to pick these creatures up and catapult them into the ocean, I doubt very much that the government of Ecuador would be giving me a research permit, because not only are you not allowed to touch any of the wildlife here, but you're certainly not allowed to throw them out in the open ocean. As a whole, as you move from one island to the next, you discover that the colonies of marine iguanas are different from each other. On Isabela, they're huge. On Plaza del Sur, they're tiny. And in some other islands, they're colorful. But here, on Fernandina, they're stocky, moderate in size, and they're very, very dark. That dark color has 2 important purposes. The first is that it's excellent camouflage. If you're living on a volcanic island and you're surrounded by black lava, what better way to blend in than to look like the lava? The other reason is that it's a little colder here than some other parts of the Galapagos. We're north. We've got some very rich upwellings of cold water surrounding these islands. Because it can be cooler, they need to generate more body energy. These animals are cold-blooded. They're not generating their own body temperature. So by being dark, they're like solar panels. They can suck up all that heat energy from the sun, store it in their bodies, fire up their metabolisms, and then head on out to sea and do what it is that makes this species amazing. Please. You're killing me. That's good, man. Wait. Ooh, I got one for you guys. Okay, ready? This grasshopper, right? He goes into a bar, and the bartender says to the grasshopper, he says, "Hey, buddy, I got a drink named after you." And the grasshopper says, "You got a drink named Rod?" Get it? Rod? Come on. Man. I guess these guys don't have a very good sense of humor. See what they're doing right now? They're expelling salt out of their nostrils. They're sneezing. They're not doing it to be rude. You have to remember, they're living in a marine environment. They're drinking seawater. The food they eat grows in the ocean and it has lots of salt in it. And they get rid of it through glands, which collect it from the bloodstream and then send that salt like plumes out of their nostrils. So listen, you know, it was really great hanging out with you guys. I hope you learned as much from me as I did from you, and I just want to say thank you. Don't get up. I'll see myself up. Whoa, look at this, right in front of you. It's a great example of how you can find the extraordinary in the ordinary. A very common species of crustacean littering these rocks, cellulite for crabs. I've seen thousands of them. I've been to the Galapagos a number of times. I'm always seeing them scatter across the rocks, but this is the first time I've ever seen this. We actually have a pair of cellulite foot crabs locked in an embrace. They're reproducing. See what he's doing? His shield underneath his abdomen has folded up. It's wrapped around her shield. Have you ever looked at an upside-down crab? It looks like an envelope, right? Well, that envelope part, that shield is up. That way he can pass on his sperm, which she will then use to fertilize her eggs. The Galapagos, always filled with surprises. Gracias. Well, I'd like to welcome you to Plaza Sur, the Southern Plaza. No, it's not some tacky mall somewhere in Greater America. This is a very special place. Look at this. We've got this great colony, this great cluster of these Galapagos sea lions. Now, there are about 50,000 Galapagos sea lions living here. And they're always sort of battling for the best property, the best landscape. And here it is. Now, see that guy coming in? That's the bull. We gotta watch him because that's his territory. This is his space. He's gonna defend this. And the battles between bulls over access to good habitat can be extreme. There is blood, flesh is torn, serious fights. Sometimes there is death. And this is what he wants. And he hopes that by having this plot of land going to the sea, it's got a nice little pool, oceanfront real estate, a good place to bring other sea lions. And the sea lions that he would like to come check out his place are the females. He has sex with them. He reproduces with them. Strongest guy, best habitat, has sex with the most females, reproduces with the most females, thus passing on his strong genes to the next generation. Look at him come out. Look at that power. Look at the power in this big bull. Beautiful, beautiful animal. These animals are extraordinary swimmers, masters of the deep. They can dive to hundreds of feet below the surface of the water. They're eating all sorts of things like squid and other. Ooh, gotta give him some space.
Hopefully the pups in this group will be friendlier.
So if you look right around us, we have a lot of activity. We have a lot of these pups playing around, and it's in these shallows, these little pools, where these animals practice their swimming skills. So when it's time for them to venture out on their own, when it's time for them to be independent, they have all the behavior they need to survive, because it's at this age where these animals are most vulnerable.
These pups just love being close to each other.
But look at this. They love contact. They love to lay on each other and be close. That sound you hear is a calming sound. It says, please, you can touch, but don't push me away. Sometimes you can see these animals pile up on each other. You can get huge piles of sea lions. And it looks like these guys are playing and they don't want to play with me. Why don't you want to play with me? I thought we were friends. We're not friends? All right. Well, fine. You can play by yourself.
The beautiful water surrounding Plaza Sur is as densely populated with life as the land.
I didn't do it! I'm innocent.
This is a part of the Galapagos that Darwin never had a chance to witness, and even here, underwater, his principles are being acted out. This wonderland is in a constant flux, and just like ashore, these animals must adapt in order to survive. Now, I know you're supposed to let sleeping sharks lie, but look at this guy. What is he doing? For years, scientists believed that the only way sharks could breathe was by moving, having water go in their mouth and through their gills. But look at this. We've disproved those theories. Here are sharks, they're breathing, and they're not moving. There have been so many sightings of groups such as these, lying motionless, that new theories have to be considered. Is it resting? Probably not. It takes a lot of effort to do this. Is it a shark social gathering? A prelude to mating? The jury is still out in scientific circles. Now wait a minute. There goes something you never expect to see in the tropics. That's right, it's a penguin. Hopefully we'll see more of them on shore. Now, I'm not sure if Darwin stopped here on his voyage in 1835, but he should have. I want to get a little closer look at those penguins we saw. We've traveled 65 miles to the island of Mariela, 6,000 miles from Antarctica. This might be the last place on Earth you'd think of seeing a penguin.
What a scene. Look at this. We've got Mariela Island. Yes, that's Mariela Island. Beautiful island. Lovely little snow peaks of guano. And look at the wildlife we've here. We've got blue-footed boobies, we've got marine iguanas, and we've got penguins. Look at that right there. And we got a sea lion. We got two sea lions. They're like, welcome, Jeff Corwin. Welcome to the Galapagos. Right here at the bottom of this boulder, we've got some adult Galapagos penguins. I think they're going to come out. Perhaps they're somehow connected to this young penguin, this baby penguin. Let's just see what happens. Look at the way this creature moves. As you can see, he's not much of a walker. He's a hopper. He hops from one place to the next. And on land, I wouldn't say that they're clumsy, but there's certainly no ballerina. But in the water, man, these guys are like in their own Bolshoi, you know, Bolshoi ballet. See what this creature's doing? It's preening, it's working, it's grooming, its feathers. The plumage is a very important behavior to these animals because the water here around these islands is fed by some extremely cold currents. The Humboldt and the Cromwell currents are very cold. The benefit of that cold water is that it provides these creatures with the food they need, the sardines and the mullet. The price that's paid by these animals is that they really have to be careful with regard to their body temperature. They can easily suffer from hypothermia. Their only defense is about a half-inch thick layer of very, very dense feathers. And they continually preen them to make sure they're compact, well lubricated, thus providing a barrier between the cold, icy water and their warm flesh. Now, many scientists believe that these Galapagos penguins are a cross between the Humboldt and the Magellan penguins. They made their way here millions of years ago from the south, from the Antarctic region of South America. They made their way up. They established themselves, as with many of the amazing creatures living in the Galapagos. A population was isolated, and over time it evolved into a new species, no longer kin to the ones from South America, from the very tip of South America, but their own unique group of birds. Now that's not nice. I'm glad that penguin isn't my mother. In fact, these penguins make excellent parents. These babies will stay being raised by their parents for nearly a year in time. And these penguins invest so much energy into the rearing of their offspring that, as you can see, the offspring can weigh up to 1/4 kilogram more than the parents, because these babies do nothing but sit there and eat. They sit, they wait, and they grow. They grow because their parents are swimming 60, 70, 90 feet, gathering up tons of sardines and mullet, putting that in their stomachs, letting it sort of mush up, and then they come back, and then they regurgitate that stuff and feed it to their babies. That's very cool, but look at that right there. Look at that. Look what's coming out of the water. Look what's coming out of the water. He's going after the crab. He's going after the crab. He's going to get the Sally Lightfoot crab. He's going to hunt for that crab. That's what he wants. He wants the Sally Lightfoot crab. That's an octopus, and he's come out of the water, and he just went back in the water. He never got the Sally Lightfoot crab. But that was cool. Isn't this great? We're on this little island, and we've got octopi. We've got Sally Lightfoot crabs. We've got blue-footed boobies. We've got flightless cormorants, and we've got penguins. And we're in the tropics. That's what's amazing.
Another 6 hours by boat, and I'm on Santa Cruz Island, home to the Cinco Cerros, or Blue Hill tortoise.
See this structure? You can think of it as, well, kind of like a greenhouse. Now, it's a greenhouse not for growing flowers, but for growing a very special creature, Galapagos tortoises. It's part of the National Park System, connected with the Darwin Center. And what they're making are baby turtles, or baby tortoises. And this is what they look like when they're 2 months in age. Very, very tiny turtle. After 2 years, you get this. This is a 2-year-old Cinco Cerro tortoise. So for millions of years, these animals have flourished on the Galapagos Islands, healthy populations, but when human beings arrived, it changed very quickly, because oftentimes ships moving through the area, hungry for some meat, would stock up on tortoise. Okay, because you can keep one of these animals alive in your boat for up to a year without food or water, and you have access to fresh meat. You've got access to fat to fire up an oil lamp. You also drink the liquid that's collected in this creature's bladder. When these animals were hunted, they were flipped over, and you can see this water. They used water as a storage device, and when they would kill the tortoises, they would often drink the water inside their bladder. And that hunting process wiped out these creatures. And in 4 centuries, their numbers were reduced from nearly 200,000 plus tortoises to less than 13,000. 2 races actually became extinct because of the behavior of human beings. So let's put these guys back. Don't worry, someday you'll be as big as him, I promise. Okay. Here's my buddy. This is a tortoise I wanted to show you. Beautiful tortoise. Look at this guy. Hey there, Pally.
I'd like one of your bananas, please. Give me a banana. Okay. Oh, I love bananas. I love bananas.
This tortoise right here is a Cerro Azul, or the Blue Hill tortoise. If you look at the shell of this individual, you'll notice that it's had some problems, okay? You can see that it's missing some of its scutes. This creature was injured, not because of human beings, but because of a natural event. What happened is that in 1998, a volcano erupted and the lava flowed from Cerro Azul to Sierra Negra, okay, this caldera, and unfortunately, this tortoise was in the way, and he was burnt. Now, some of the tortoises were transported by helicopter, but this individual was actually carried. This creature, which weighs hundreds of pounds, was hand-carried by some very dedicated and concerned park rangers, and he was rehabilitated, he was healed. Now he lives a life in captivity, but he's a part of this very important breeding program. He's also an ambassador for this place, sharing the important natural history of these very wonderful turtles.
When we think of tortoises, we think of a quiet animal, but not during the breeding season, because when they're copulating, the male roars and utters a groaning sound.
This guy's good. As you can see, champagne and oysters are not necessary. This is the goal of this breeding center with the Galapagos National Park, is to secure the future of not only Cinco Cerro tortoises, tortugas, but other tortoises as well. And all the effort goes in for this singular event, which they hope will occur amongst all the adult turtles, and that's reproduction. These creatures could live 100 years or more. No one really knows the actual lifespan of these animals. It's quite possible that there is a tortoise living on one of these Galapagos Islands that's been hanging around since the days of Darwin. Knock that off. You're fresh. You're a very fresh tortoise. You're an herbivore. So he's looking at me and he's thinking, that's the biggest banana I ever saw. It's going to be delicious. I'll be eating that banana for months. That's it. Gracias.
It has taken us 10 hours to sail from Santa Cruz to Española, the most southern of the Galapagos Islands.
We've got some excellent stuff happening here. See this bird and those birds over here? We've got a small colony of masked boobies, okay? And what I want to do is focus to this individual because it really encapsulates the story of these wonderful birds. This is a masked booby. Named masked because of that featherless area of brown skin around his bill. The reason why I selected this individual, because it's connected to that individual. You see, this is a parent of this hatchling over here, and this is what I really want to talk about. This is where the behavior of the masked boobies becomes very interesting, very complex. They will rear only one offspring, but they'll lay 2 eggs. And what happens is there's an invisible circle around the nesting site of these birds, okay? One of those eggs is going to hatch first, perhaps a week before the other egg. Then, when the other egg hatches, the first hatchling pushes the second hatchling out of the ring. The parents ignore the battle as that little hatchling is pushed out, and even though it's only a neck length distant away from the parent ignores it, and it starves to death. It dies, it bakes in the hot sun. The winner survives and gets taken care of by the parents. That is called obligate siblicide, or the Cain and Abel effect, where one offspring kills the other for 100% attention from the parents.
Oh, isn't he cute?
It's a beautiful island, island of Española, one of the oldest islands in this archipelago, almost 3 million years in age. and it is home to a splendid lizard, a gorgeous, gorgeous marine iguana. To find it, just look where you're standing, because they're all around you. Look at this. Look at the color of this lizard. They're like lizards wrapped under a rainbow, and look at that one over there. They're all different colors. The individuals have different colorations between each other. Oh my gosh, and look at this one. Look at this one before he leaves. Look at the colors of this lizard. Look at this guy. He's got blue. He's got a stripe of turquoise blue going down his spine. Each one is different from the next. Look at this one over here. Let's follow this guy over. Look what he's doing. Look what he's doing. Head bobbing, head bobbing, head bobbing. Look at that. He's saying, listen here, mister. I'm bigger than you, and these are my babes. So make like a tree and go away. Go away. Get out of here now.
When these iguanas are bobbing their head, they're actually communicating. It's a visual signal identifying territory.
Scientists have speculated why these lizards have different colors, and it probably has something to do with competition between individual lizards. The wildlife is packed very tightly in this island. So they're smaller in size, and they compete with each other with the color. The prettier you are, the more spectacular you appear, the better chance you have of getting a mate. It tells your health. It tells your fitness. It says, see my colors? I'm eating a lot. I'm eating well.
Yes, Jeff Corwin. Yes, I agree with you. You are very intelligent, Jeff.
I know I am.
So, tell me more about the iguanas, Jeff Corwin. Share with me your knowledge.
I'd be very happy, my young friend, the lava lizard, my apprentice, learning about his world, the world of herpetology. And the herpetology is extraordinary here in Hispaniola because we've got this female. She's working away. She's digging. She's blowing tons of her energy just to excavate this nest. And she's going to go a half a meter or more into the earth. And not only does she have to be powerful enough to rip into the earth, rip away roots of saltbush, and pull out those stones and earth,
but she must also defend her territory from other females who have actually been known to dig up and destroy the eggs of other iguanas, and then claim the nest for their own.
Look at this, what's happening right here. This female has went through so much work to dig that nest. Now she's going to stand guard because there's another female. She's like, get out of here, get out of my nest. Listen here, my mouth is open, I'm furious, I'm a mama on a mission, and I'm getting my babies in that hole. And look at, she's like, boy, look at Florence. Florence says, you get out of here too. Great stuff, great competition. Her mouth is agape, she's bobbing her head, and now that she's driven off her competitor, she's going to return back to the nest. Going back for a little victory dance, little victory bobbing, and then back in the hole for a little victory digging, and eventually some victory egg laying. Remember that scene in Alien? John Hurt walking amongst the eggs. Ooh. Ah. Check it out. Awesome stuff. Exciting stuff. This is the paradise for marine iguana reproduction here on the island of Hispaniola. Look at this. There has to be at least 100 females toiling in this earth, in this rubble. They're fighting.
It's starting to get late, so I think I'm going to leave this fight before the final round. Well, we've got 12 hours of overnight sailing ahead of us, and if we don't take the wrong freeway exit and end up in Burbank again, daybreak should find us at our next destination, the island of Isabela.
Our next destination is Isla Isabela. It is the largest of the Galapagos Islands and is home to some equally large creatures.
Not only is it the largest of the islands, but it's still growing. There are 5 central volcanoes here that form the spine of the island.
This morning, the sun's coming up. Isabela gets hot real quick. So, all this flat vegetation is called saltbush. Very hardy, salt-tolerant plant. Now, during the nighttime hours, this place gets pretty cool, so the iguanas, they'll seek refuge and shelter underneath the saltbush. But as the day starts to warm up, they creep out of the bush. Okay, look at this. Look at this. See this? See how there's little punch holes in this vegetation? These are areas where iguanas have moved through. That's it right there.
The marine iguanas here have adapted to the spaciousness of the island. They're huge.
I feel like I'm in a 1950s Japanese horror movie. I feel like I should be one of those little people going, Godzilla! Godzilla! What's really important to recognize as we come face to face with the various races of iguanas here is that we're seeing Darwin's research work. We're seeing his theories actually come to life. For example, this animal represents a theory known as adaptive radiation.
This is when a species adapts to survive in a very specific environment. Now, in the case of the Galapagos, each island hosts a new and different species. Species that are closely related, yet special to that island alone.
But where are these subspecies or races going to? Perhaps we are seeing a stage which will eventually lead to a new species of iguana that's very different from the animal we see today. And why is it changing? Why is its body being molded and, tweaked from one generation to the next? It is because of the environment. The animal is adapting to changes in the environment, and those adaptations are represented in each new generation of animal, in this case, these giant iguanas of Isabella that come into the world. And those adaptations help these animals survive. Because if you're not adapting, if you're not meeting and taking on the challenges successfully in your environment as a living creature, the only option you have is extinction. And that's a very nasty price to pay for not being fit. Look at this. Look at this guy right here. Now this is a serious male. He's showing his ornamentation. He's showing how powerful he is. Not only does he have a great array of spines going down his body, but he's so old that they're actually folding over each other. Look at the top of his head. Look at those triangular scales right there.
Those come in handy for sparring.
They're locked, buttress to buttress, with another male iguana as they wrestle back and forth over access to that good plot of rock where all the girls are going to be hanging out. This is a look of experience. This is a look of a creature that's fit to survive. And to a female iguana, this is one very handsome young fellow, aren't you there? I bet you got yourself a lot of girls in your day, huh?
So far, I've only shown you marine iguanas, but here, finally, is a Galapagos land iguana. Well, he's here somewhere.
Look at this. The iguana came out of this burrow right there, moved this way. He stopped here. He relieved himself, and then he moved right there. Look at the colors of it. The top is almost a copper color, while the bottom and the head is a beautiful, beautiful yellow, and the eyes are red, okay? Now this individual is a male. He's got raised spines, and he's got those dome-like bumps right here on its head. Land iguanas like this race here on this island, okay, they have a very long lifespan. In fact, it's about double the lifespan of a marine iguana. Marine iguanas live to about 30 years. These creatures can live about 60 years, and that's very long for a lizard. As you can see, these lizards are solid muscle, powerful, powerful creatures. They use the muscles in their arms and legs to climb up trees in search of fruit and food. Females use the powerful muscles in their legs and those powerful claws to rip apart the earth to lay their eggs. Here we are, we're just sitting out here. We're on an island, we're in the Galapagos. We get a rare window into the world of these animals, to be able to sit here but a meter away and watch this creature go about its business with not a care in the world with regard to our presence is a wonderful thing. And that's something that many of the creatures living here in this archipelago share in common, is that they have evolved many things to promote their survival. They have unique adaptations with regard to the way they're built or their behavior, but one behavior they do not possess is a fear of predation. because animals have been allowed to evolve for millions of years on these islands without the impact of a creature coming to eat them. Apparently someone's feeling a little snobby today. It appears that Jeff Corwin is not high up in the list of entertainment or interesting things for Land Iguana. Like, talk to the tail, mister. Just talk to the tail. Oh, we're gonna get a little... See, my foot is valuable territory to these guys. They're gonna fight over my foot. How's that, huh? Pretty cool. I never knew flat feet were valuable to Galapagos land iguanas, but now we know. You're the victor. I'm a size 10.5. I hope it's what you're looking for.
If Darwin were alive today, he'd be amazed at some of the adaptations of these iguanas. Scientists believe that the land iguanas of Isabella have evolved to such an extent that they're well on their way to becoming their own species.
Looks like I'm staring face to face with a T-Rex, but this is no dinosaur. This is a very modern, beautiful lizard. A land iguana, and I thought they were more specific to cactus. I knew they'd eat all sorts of stuff, but this is an excellent example, some more evidence to give us a better feel for the diet of these creatures. So not only are they eating the paddle cactus, but they're eating this plant right here. This is a native plant to these islands, and this iguana has pulled himself up, and he's just munching away, and look how beautiful he is.
We're on the final leg of our journey now, and these dolphins seem to be leading us towards our destination, and it looks like they're having a great time doing it. East of Isabella, beyond Santa Cruz, is an island where something special is happening, an island where something brand new is evolving.
God bless you. Look at this. This lizard in front of us is the most exciting because what we have here is a hybrid. Watch him as he climbs down. Look at this lizard. It is no ordinary reptile, okay? Let me come around here very carefully. There he goes. Bing, 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 bing. Look at this. This is an amazing thing to see. What we're witnessing are the words of Darwin coming to life because this iguana is the product of a mating between a marine and a land iguana. What we have is a hybrid.
10 million years ago, the ancestors of land and marine iguanas arrived in these islands.
And then that ancestor split into one group that ate the algae at the ocean. Okay, the marine iguanas, and the other group that took refuge up in the land and was eating the plants and the cactus. He's just laying out now. See, he doesn't think he's anything special. He's just, I'm here absorbing the sun like all the other iguanas do. But you're no ordinary iguana. Part marine, part land, first generation, okay? So how do we know it's a hybrid? What makes them unique? The first thing you notice is it's very black, just like the marine iguanas. You're not seeing the yellow that you would find on the land iguanas, but what you are seeing is some whitish pigment, which is often seen around the neck of the land iguanas, but it's broken up by the black. The other thing you'll notice is that the muzzle on this beast, okay, is very flat, very rounded and flat. And that's something you'd see in the marine iguanas, because the marine iguanas need that flat muzzle when they're grazing on seaweed, when they're grazing on algae, on the rocks, and in the ocean. And all that comes together and just shows us this mixing of two species. We really don't know where this is going to go. This is very new. This has just happened in the last few years. As a naturalist, I find this experience so exciting because the words of Darwin that have been expressed in his journal while aboard the Beagle or from the origin of the species are coming alive. It's like discovery for me, coming face to face. with what might be a new creature, okay? What might be an animal that will be totally unique, totally novel, with its own characteristics for survival, showing us how creatures adapt to survive. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's an experiment that ends here. Maybe this animal's like a mule, a cross between a horse and a donkey. And what a mule might share in common with this lizard is that it's sterile. And that would be the end. The experiment has gone awry. Who knows? To get the real answer, stick around for a couple of thousand years.
The Galapagos has been such a dramatic series of encounters. I think it deserves a big ending. I've returned to the majestic island of Isabella to wrap up our journey.
Whoa, look at that view. Incredible. Look at this. Wow, isn't that amazing? The second largest caldera in the world, Sierra Negra. At some points, it's 6 miles long. You can find like areas over there. It's about 1,000 feet deep. And in its origin, 1 million years ago, its presence was violent. It bubbled up from the earth. The lava was piping hot. It fried everything in its path. But in the end, out of that violence came life, because it was substrate. It was surface for life forms to grow. First came the plants, and then came the animals, both along wind and water. And Galapagos is an extraordinary place. To be called a living laboratory of evolution is appropriate indeed. It has brought scientists for years and years, first Darwin and then the others, and they come to better understand our world in this amazing process of evolution. But I think it's important for us to remember that although many of the creatures that live here are hardy in nature, overall, this is a very sensitive place. And what we do here can have an impact, and we might as well make it a positive one. Until we meet again, I look forward to our next wildlife experience. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on, let's go.
All right, this is where I ride off into the sunset. Hey, would someone move those clouds? Come on, I need a sunset.